Hello, I am Thirteene, and per usual tonight we're going to be playing a bad version of a really good deck. So green-white Tron used to be a thing a while back, and then kind of green-red was a thing with Grove of the Burn Willows, and then it kind of just went mono-green, then it went green-black, and it kind of went back to mono-green, but this was like the very first version of the deck, and I kind of want to revisit it since the reprinting of Night of Autumn. So Tron. Tron's kind of the boogeyman of the format. You use the Urza's lands, tower giving 3, mine and power plant giving 2. When you have 3 lands, it adds up to 7. You can then go and get Sylvan Scrying to go fetch out your last land, expedition map, and then pretty much the only card I kind of feel doesn't really belong in Modern is Ancient Stirrings. You get way more card selection, and it's a way better cantrip than anything currently in blue. But yeah, so that's the shell of Tron, and then we're playing a lot of the big baddies from Tron. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. One of my favorite Planeswalkers, flipping it for free with Narset during Khan's block was just so much fun. Like, Ugin has a special place in my heart after that. And Ulamog can just exile 2 permanents. You cast him even if it gets countered. You're still getting so far ahead on board. And then pretty much the primary reason we're going white is we actually get access to Elesh Norn. Now, you can be like me and just want to show off your pretty judge promo in Phyrexian, or you could just be wanting to rock the big bad lady herself. But Elesh Norn is really good when she's good and pretty mediocre when she's not. And yeah, so she's going to be the big reason we're going white. Basically makes creature strategies not work, also makes some of our dorkier creatures better. There's not a lot of them, but Elesh Norn is great. Then being white also gives us access to Path to Exile, possibly the best land in Modern in Horizon Canopy. It's going to fix both of our colors and allow us to cycle it to draw a card, and being white is also going to give us access to some of the best sideboard hate in Modern. So kind of like similar Tron, we are running mainboard Relic, it cantrips, there's a lot of graveyard strategies. We get World Breaker, we're running a Johnny as a fun of, Thought Knot Seers, like we kind of just have the whole thing here. But yeah, let's go ahead and run her through a league. So we will take the play. And this hand looks a little interesting. So first thing that hits me is we have 4 lands, but only one of them is Tron. We have the Sylvan Scrying, we have a cantrip, and we have a redraw. It's good enough. I'm going to give it a shot. Tron is supposed to mulligan pretty aggressively to try to get up to Tron, but we are a little bit of a more control-y build. So we'll see what this guy can do. Ulamog is castable off of 2 towers with 4 lands. We currently have mines and nothing else, so that's a little rough, but Sylvan Scrying's going to hopefully set us up to a land. We're going to cantrip, see something new with Star. Opponent on Wooded Foothills means we're potentially playing against Ponza, Jund, Malaria Pod, a couple of different options there. Going for basic Forest, looking a little bit more like Ponza. Nope, Valakut. It's Valakut. Alright, so we've just got to be a little bit faster. And always start with the Star, because we're going to see a card before we actually have to go tutor. Elesh Norn's not even kind of sort of castable here. Since we have the green, I think I'm actually just going to Expedition Map here. Sorry, Sylvan Scrying. Right thought, wrong card. And then this is going to go get us a tower. So those of you not familiar with Tron, if we have all 3, this taps for 3, this taps for 2. We already have 2 mines, so going to go ahead and grab the tower and ship it on over to opponent. We're going to have turn 4 Tron, but we're not going to have 2 white sources, so Elesh Norn's not coming out until turn 5, and Valakut's going to be pretty hard. Unfortunately, don't have ley lines in our sideboard, but we should have bigger threats than them, and we should come out probably a turn faster if we can construct pretty quickly. Being on the play in this game is going to be a pretty big lead for us. Valakut is going to have to get to 7 lands if we don't dip below 18. There's a second white source. Right now I'm just trying to piece together if we potentially need to get white sources out. I really don't think that's the case, so Gonna go ahead and run this out, set up for next turn Tron, and I'm going to leave the expedition map. It's possible they have a braid, but we'll just respond to it. I can't think of any discard cards or any reason that we wouldn't want to just crack the expedition map now. Opponent's going to be up to 5 lands this turn if they have a land drop. So we have 2 turns. Ulamog's going to take them off of 2 mountains. Okay, potentially 6 lands. And we only have 9 mana. Alright, well hopefully they're not sitting on the Nutter Butter draw. That's looking pretty good. It's looking really good. Alright, well let's hope that they don't have Scape Shift. So this move here, Sakura Tribuilder trying to get us to 18. It requires 1 last land for Valakut. And I didn't crack that, oh my lord. Oh, well, on the plus side, we weren't going to do anything else this turn. But I guess we'll see if opponent can kill us here. So currently at 9 mana, 3, 7, 9. Didn't actually mean to click that. So if they have Scape Shift, we're dead. If not, we've got a pretty decent shot to just Ulamog him to death. Elesh Norn really won't do anything against Primeval Titan. And even Rocky's realizing we're not in a great spot. Again, so the life total here is to get us to 18, then that way 5 mountains and a Valakut will actually be able to kill us. That may have been a missequence from opponent because we have Ulamog. We're just going to be able to take away both of their Valakuts. But let's see what they got. Still dead to Escape Shift. Didn't even sack the Tribuilder to get an additional 6 damage in. Oh, because they only have 4 mountains, it wouldn't have triggered yet. That makes sense. And that was also incorrect of me. I was just so determined to get Ulamog out. I was supposed to put out Horizon Canopy so we could Elesh Norn. Wow, not off to a stellar start. Wow, opponent and also hard drew 3 Valakuts. It's not very common. Luckily, I don't think Elesh Norn changes the clock at all. Alright, so first things first, going to start cantripping my way across our hand. Something like an Ugin would just be fantastic. And I am actually going to get white here so that we can cast Elesh Norn this turn. And we have 9 mana, which means Elesh Norn and popping Relic are both possible. So let's go ahead and just cycle Relic first. Not going to use Ancient Stirrings here. Oh, yes I can. I probably need to start getting better at my Tron math here. And we can try to Stirrings into a better threat. Thought Knot's pretty dang good. Spatial Contortion doesn't really do anything. We're still 1 life point away from killing Primeval Titan with the Elesh Norn. Thought Knot's a fine find here. Then they have to be on Scape Shift to kill us here. Well, we had at least 2 Scape Shifts, 2 Primeval Titans. I'm not really seeing anything out of the ordinary for their list. I think Flame Slash has become pretty common for Hollow One. Anger of the Gods is in there for Dredge and Phoenix decks. So, yep, that does it. Alright, we need to be a little faster this time. So, what do we care about here? Knight of Autumn can hit their Prismatic and also gain us 4 life. Thragtusk can gain us 5 life and just be a faster clock. What actually wants to get cut? Spatial Contortion is terrible. They're going to be sacrificing their Steves and can't kill a Primeval Titan. They did show us that they're on Kalani Heart Expedition, making these Knight of Autumns look a little more appealing. Oblivion Stone doesn't really do a whole lot either. We don't necessarily care about blowing up their board, and if we have Tron, we're probably winning anyway. So right now, that's looking pretty solid. There's no reason to bring in Rip. World Breaker seems fantastic. Elish Norn seems a little meh. I might see trading Elish Norn out for a Thragtusk just to help speed up our clock a tiny bit. Wacky B doesn't really do too much, but it is what it is. Another note is we do want to keep our colorless threats up. The Ancient Stirrings will grab a colorless threat, and Sanctum of Vugan, whenever we cast something large in colorless, we get a tutor for another colorless thing. One of the non-bows with Elish Norn and why Tronless have been running away from the strategy. We have 4 Knight of Autumns. I can't imagine Nature's Claim is very good, and we can go ahead and run it back. From our opponent, I'm expecting a Braids out of the sideboard or some variant of Smash to Smithereens, just be able to take out our artifacts. Luckily, this build doesn't rely on them as much as other ones. If we were the Ghost Quarter build, that Crucible in the sideboard would be significantly better. And we have Fixing for Knight of Autumn, 2 lands, 2 redraws, and counter target Scapeshift. I actually really like this hand. Warping Well is a very good flexible card, being able to counter a sorcery, exile a creature with power toughness 1, and create a Scion. Usually the ramp doesn't mean too much, but it still is very flexible for what it can do. Opponent did lead on Search for Tomorrow. That's pretty much their best start, and we only have 1/1 drop, so we'll run it out. And opponent has nothing to exile. This is going to cantrip, but for now it's just... it's getting us what our mana, or it's making best use of our mana. Damping Sphere. Alright, well, luckily for us, we don't really care. Damping Sphere doesn't hurt this build nearly as much as people would expect it to. So there's our Signet, and we also have a way to destroy that now, which also gives a lot more value to Knight of Autumn. If we see Tron, definitely just going to blow that guy up. No reason to let it stick around. There could have potentially been an argument to Warping Will that, but I think this is going to have a lot more value when Scapeshift is just lethal. I was starting to think opponent might not have a land drop, and they're trying to figure out what to do. They have a second one. That's actually probably hurting them more than us at this point. And we did have Tron. Alright, so we can cantrip. We can only cast 1 spell this turn, essentially, because it's going to increase the cost by 2 for every single time that we do it. If we just run out Tron and Knight of Autumn, I don't think that accomplishes much. So they have no land drops coming down, which means we're not dead to Scapeshift. So there's no argument to hold up Warping Well. We don't even have payoff for Tron. I think I'm just going to run out Knight of Autumn here, expecting setup to happen for future turns. We can blow up one of the Dampening Spheres, and if we see one of the other 3 Knight of Autumns, then we'll just have Tron unlocked. We're already above 18, so there's no reason to gain life, and we could create a clock, but we just have higher top ends than they do, so this feels right. Plus we could Cycle Relic. And we are actually up a game. Yeah, Knight of Autumn actually feels like a pretty good reason to go green-white. It's still probably weaker than just green Tron, but Stony Silence, Damping Spheres, just all the things that Knight of Autumn can take care of. Alright, and start by cycling Horizon Canopy, although let's tap correctly. This will tap for 3 if we do happen to see another Knight of Autumn, and that'll allow us to run out more. Expedition map is going to cost... So we're still not dead to Scape Shift. I don't see any reason to hold that up. And then this is going to cost 2. Poke our opponent for 2. And Primeval Titan's going to be bad for next turn. I don't really think that it's super bad for us, but it's not great. We're technically on 6 mana, which means that any of our bigger drops are kind of unlocked. We get a Johnny, Thought-Knot Seer is good. I guess we're 7 is going to be Elish Norn and World Breaker. And they're back on the slow roll. So we have at least 1 turn, bare minimum. Ancient Stirrings. I am a fan of that. Wait, have to do math here. So, Horizon Canopy cycling. Let's actually play this like Happy Magic Christmas Land. So, Horizon Canopy, Ancient Stirrings. Knight of Autumn, 3 mana. Costs 2 more. Okay, so it doesn't matter. We can't do everything this game, or this turn. So, Ancient Stirrings, try to find a threat. I like my fun little walkie bee here. Primeval Titan is actually a concern. So, we can still make our land drop, have 4 mana, leave up 1. We only have 3 mana this turn. I think we're on Ugin. And there goes a Knight of Autumn. And then next turn is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so we're also cycling Horizon Canopy. All the mana, all the cycling. Alright, so we have 1 spell cast so far this turn. This will cost 2. We have to leave up Warping Well here, so I can't run out any of our 1 mana things. Poke the opponent, see what they got. If nothing else happens, we can just crack Expedition Map to go grab another, probably Horizon Canopy at this point, just another redraw. There could be an argument for hanging on to these, just that we can actually start hard casting our stuff. We just have so much mana, and with 2 more Knight of Autumns not on the bottom of our deck, it feels like this is a really good out. This is going to be a problem, though, so that's going to be able to hit for 6. Opponent has no uncracked fetches. 2 cards in hand. They've already made their land drop for turn. And opponent does not respect the Knight of Autumn. I guess 3 damage from every land drop is better than poking in for 2 with a Knight. And a Primeval Titan. Scape Shift. Alright, so that can kill us. So counter that. I don't like that. Yeah, the colorless counter spell. And this can only be a 1-drop thanks to their damping sphere. Yep, so they can't do anything. Sylvan Scrying. Alright, so this is 6 mana. I honestly think I just want the redraw. At this point, it would have been better just to leave our land drops around, but who honestly would have thought that it was going to take this long to find any of our hate? Like, look at that. That is so heartbreaking. Alright, well, let's see what their last card is. It's got to be a Braid, because they were trying to cast something for 2 mana. I guess it could have been Steve. Steve and a land drop here represents 6 more damage. So, drew a mountain for turn. Jeez, Rocky. We go down to 11. Yep, it was a Steve. Steve, we're at a virtual 8. I really should have just done this a long time ago. I think we're just going to try to make land drops here. Alright, most impactful stars or redraws. Although, I don't want to use these yet in case we draw into an Ajani. And there it is. Do I want to do that this turn? They have no cards in hand. Yeah. We would like to do this turn. If I would have cycled that, I could have ran out of star. That was missequencing. Oh well, we have an Ugin. Likely going to fog the damage here. I also should have done this post-combat, because now they actually could fog this damage, go get a mountain, drop in 3 damage at this night, and wipe our board. Although I think right now they're just trying to count to 12. So that's going to be 3 more, that's 6. We're going down to a virtual 5. And Thragtusk is a good draw. Alright, so Sanctum's going to go get us Ulamog. How much mana are we actually working with? 4, 10, 11, 12, 13. Which is perfect for Ugin and Thragtusk. Tron is a fair and balanced deck. And unfortunately I mistapped, so Ugin has to come down now. We'll sacrifice Sanctum of Ugin, go get Ulamog so we can exile all their lands. We're going to ping our opponent here. They get a Fog combat, but who really cares? If I target Sakura Tribe Elder, they're just going to shoot down one of the knights, more than likely. We go up to 16. The opponent has to draw Scapeshift. That's their only out. And then we're going to have lethal on the backswing. Yeah, opponent knows what's up. They have to draw Scapeshift or it's over. And Battle of the Big Mana decks. Turns out Ugin's a pretty good card. Opponent was also really hoping that that was going to do something. And took the first one 2-0. Yep, Warping Well is a very fun card. Warping Well would have... Without that, we would have lost the game. Counter target sorcery spell. Very, very good for a colorless card. I honestly don't think this is on color for colorless, but... Alright, well, we have a turn 2 Sylvan Scrying and a turn 3 Tron with an active Oblivion Stone. I'd say that's good enough. Regardless of the build that Tron that you're on, like, your opening hand is mostly the skill value here. Like, determining your mulligans is going to be how you win a lot of your games. Opponents mulliganing pretty hard, which means they either got shafted on lands, possibly Dredge, possibly Tron, or Valakut again. So, sequencing here, we now have 2 towers. You typically want to lead on the one that you have duplicates of, just in case they have land destruction. Another really good thing about this version of the deck is we're running 3 basics, so it's quite hard for any of the other decks that we're playing against to mana screw us off a Field of Ruins. Alright, so Stomping Grounds, Valakut. Jund is less likely at this point, although that looks like a Jund fetch. Ponza. Okay, well, looks like Jund. Is this a Bob? Goif? Life from the Loam. Okay, so this might be Seismic Assault lands. They're going to be trying to generate a lot of... Alright, I guess that's a thing too. They're going to be trying to generate a lot of card advantage through Life from the Loam and try to discard lands to ping us if it is. This could also potentially just be Dredge. Dredge can look a lot like this, just not have a turn 1 play. I think most of the time they want Cathartic Reunion, but they could potentially think that this is their Dredge out. They did mulligan pretty hard, so it really wouldn't put it... I wouldn't put it past them to be Dredge. Yeah, I'm thinking this is Dredge. The Seismic Assault deck is pretty fringe. And there's the Creeping Chill. Alright, Dredge confirmed. They're going to try to dump their graveyard, get a bunch of different effects. We have mainboard relics, we have sideboard rips. Hopefully they're just on the loam plan. If they loam back 2 lands here, should have a pretty good advantage. Path is good, unconditional removal, their creatures won't come back. Oblivion Stone's only going to buy us a turn here. Yeah, that's not what you want to do in a Dredge deck. So, Oblivion Stone, Fate Counter, Thought Knot, Warping Well? Yep, Thought Knot, Warping Well it is. Thought Knot's Unconditional Exile is really good. We're probably going to take their Life from the Loam here. It does depend on what their hand is, but if that's their only engine, then... Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Dredge opponent. You're not going to have a fun game today. I mean, we still need to draw into action, but we are looking quite favored at the moment. They did get a Dredge Thug, although it doesn't look like they got anything they care about here. Faithless Looting with no Dredgers, pretty desperate sign. Discarded the Thug. Alright, so opponent's going to attack in with this Bloodghast here so they can kill it, make their land drop, and get back this Prized Amalgam. I'm actually going to be exiling target creature with toughness 1 or less to make sure that that can't happen. Oh, they didn't go for that line. So they have Creeping Chill in hand, as well as 2 unknown cards. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I care about here. Just going to exile the Bloodghast. It feels like the highest upside play. Really surprised they didn't attack in. It looked like they wanted to. They played a fetch land so they could get it back. And I need to leave this up for white. We don't have any of our actual mana sources, so Chromatic Star is going to have to allow us to path to exile here. Opponent's going to dredge 5. They found another Stinkweed Imp, but that's about it. Hard casting Creeping Chill here. Possibly the Thug. Oh, they found Cathartic Reunion. That's pretty good for them. And a lot of prized amalgams. There's the other Creeping Chill. Okay, so they have a Conflagrate now, which is potentially a problem. No creatures to get back, though. If they do, they're going to get 4 prized amalgams. Conflagrate for 4 against Thought-Knot is potentially a line they're going to use. Just discard their hand and get rid of Thought-Knot, try to draw a card, dredge probably the Life from the Loam. They already got rid of all their other dredgers. So they had a Thug. I think that's all I know about, but it does look like they're taking the Conflagrate line. They have 2 red for it. Yep. So discarded all those cards, gonna dredge the Thug. Oh, and they got a Narcomoeba. Alright, that's a little unfortunate. So all the prized amalgams are coming back. So sequencing here is I have to let the prized amalgams come in. There are going to be 4 of them. Then going to crack the star for white. Depending on what I draw into, I might need to crack Oblivion Stone. Okay, that means I'm not cracking Oblivion Stone or pathing. Tron is too good. Sorry, opponent. Bad day's just going to continue. And this should be a concession. They won't have any threats left in their deck. So Ugin comes down, -3s, gets rid of all the prized amalgams and the Narcomoebas, and then opponent's left with 3 Bloodghast left in the deck. Not quite good enough to get there. Rest in Peace come in. Thragtusk is a really good blocker, but I don't really think that's what we're going for here. Worldbreaker. They could be on Damping Spheres. They're more likely on Assassin's Trophies. I mean, we have 2 Relics and 2 Rips, as well as a bunch of top-end threats. This doesn't feel great for them. Plus a couple of exile effects. We're actually white, so we have Path to Exile. I don't even know what I want to cut. Really doubt we want Crucible of Worlds. They could Assassin's Trophy our land. We go get a basic, replay the Tron land, but this feels like a dead draw. Night of Autumn doesn't really hit anything that they could have I care about. I could potentially want the life from Thragtusk, just because of Conflagrate and Creeping Chill is a lot of reach. Elish Norn seems so busted. Oblivion Stone seems temporary. It just might be that. I could also see an argument for like a Johnny, because we're either going to win or lose. We're not going to try to grind him out. Potentially Spatial Contortion. This is just temporary removal. But Oblivion Stone kind of requires Tron to be online, so we have a lot of really good cards in this matchup. Jeez, Rocky. It's good, dude. Calm down. I think the only way that this goes actually horribly bad for us is if opponent just, or if we don't mulligan well. If we just don't see any of the cards we need to see, that could go very poorly for us, but otherwise they'd need to hit like multiple Creeping Chills and ping us down to below 10 and then just start keep dredging and get a super aggressive start. Yeah, I mean, they have some Ancient Grudges, but I don't think I care. This hand is a little bit on the slow side, but these Ancient Stirrings are essentially colorless card of choice if I'm looking 10 in, so... All the Stirrings, Mr. Kitty. We have 2 mines, which makes me want a... Wow, all 4 mines were in the top 8 cards. I guess that's 13. Oh, poor Rip. Alright, well, take power plant, ship it back. So, opponents leading on red and green means a Cathartic Reunion's probably in our future. Potentially a loam. I mean, loaming for 2 lands here isn't terrible value, but... They showed us that last game, and it clearly didn't mean a whole lot. I want to be so cute here and counter their Cathartic Reunion. Let's see, why would they... That's not what I'm looking for. If they're on 3 mana, that means that they're... They shouldn't be doing anything for 3 mana. Yeah, I think I'm countering a Cathartic Reunion this turn. And then next turn I can stir in and still hold up counter, or just put out Walkie B for 1. I have my next Tron land, so I don't need to try to force the additional land drop this turn. That just might be the control player in me thinking I have more time than I do. But I have a very interactive hand with land drops. Oh, this feels so good. Counter target sorcery spell. I mean, you still got Conflagrate and Loam in the graveyard, but you don't get a draw 3. Yeah, sorry, opponent. But I had the read. Alright, that means power plant comes down. We are Stirrings. Looking for tower. What do I want here? So I already have a green and white source. I already have most of my mana. Ulamog's looking the most tempting here. Oblivion Stone's always just temporary, plus they probably have Grudge and a Braid and Assassin's Trophy. Signet is ramp. We're going to go up to 5 lands next turn, so that's 6 mana. That can cast a lot of our threats. Thought-Knot can block, and we'll have the mana for it. I think we're on Thought-Knot. Any order, and Walkie B for 1, just because we don't have white available. You're the lone sentry, dude. 1 counter. Lots riding on your back, but we just countered a Cathartic Reunion, so I already count this game as a win. So, gonna dredge Loam. They had another Loam and a couple lands. So they can Loam, go up to 7 cards. Next turn, draw Conflagrate for 8. That's pretty threatening, but seeing as those were their best discards, they must not have a very good hand. Yep. Oh, I guess they go up to 6. Oh, they made their land drop. Yep. Okay, I mathed right. They just played a land drop. And that's pretty good. So they don't have either Loam in hand. They clearly don't have a threat. Which means they probably have Bloodghast in hand, potentially Prized Amalgams and Archamoebas. I don't think I actually want a Thought-Knot here. I think I'm just on Horizon Canopy so I can put a counter on, or Path. That feels like highest upside. I put it out a Recursible Thread, it eats a Path. If not, I get a counter. Plus this Conflagrate, if we Thought-Knot, they're probably just going to shoot it at the Thought-Knot. And I do feel like Elesh Norn is a big enough game here that I want to keep the Horizon Canopies around at least for a little while, because the only thing that's going to survive that from their side of the field is going to be Prized Amalgam, and it'll come out as a 1/1. So they will hit a land drop, the 2 Bloodghast come back. They're probably going to Faithless Looting here and just try to get dredging going on. If they do go wide enough at the current moment, we are a little bit in trouble. Only card in hand we know about is Loam and potentially 2 lands. And there's the Grudge. Which means they might have drawn... No, they dredged, or that would be Faithless Looting. This feels so counterintuitive, but I'm going to go get my planes here so I can cycle this Rising Canopy. Pinging them for 1 isn't going to do a whole lot, and I don't think a single path is going to do much. These Bloodghast don't have haste. I don't care about them, plus Thought-Knot's going to block until they decide to blow their Conflagrate. Oh, they didn't even bring back their Bloodghasts. Alright, so Cantripping's not going to do anything at the current moment. Thought-Knot, go do your thing. So they're going to have to dredge a life from the Loam, so this is essentially a blink at the moment. I'm not actually a huge fan of them hard casting Creeping Chill. That's going to drain them for 3 and put us a little bit closer to the other things having haste. Then again, if we take the Loam, then they won't have another target to discard. Yeah, I'm on board for that. They're going to have to dredge Loam, cast Loam, and then Conflagrate. And if that's their turn, we're just ahead. It feels a little loose bringing back these Bloodghasts here. They could actually try to dredge into some Amalgams, and just getting 2 Bloodghasts that can't really attack in very profitably doesn't seem the best. Well, they found another Bloodghast, so that solves that problem. They did dredge Loam. Found another Loam. So, Loam, pick up 3 lands, Conflagrate, discarding 7 cards, 4 at Thought-Knot, 3 at me, swinging for 4. That puts us at 12. Bloodghast still won't have haste, but I believe I'm pathing this turn. I don't know what is up with the dog tonight. He's usually loud, but not that loud. And I think opponents trying to figure out if they want to blow their entire load against this Thought-Knot or not. Because they don't have a lot going on. They could potentially Faithless Looting, dredge the Loam, hit a land drop, cast life from the Loam, and set up for a really big turn next turn. But it looks like they're targeting lands with life from the Loam, so they opted into it. Or not? For the most part, Dredge plays itself. I can't imagine they have too many options going on. Yep, there's the Conflagrate. Oh, they only did it for 4, though. Yep, that's fine. So now they're going to dredge the life from the Loam, get it back. Nothing of importance. So I believe they ran out the Blood Crypt. No, they ran out the Footed Hills and cracked it, so they have Blood Crypt in hand. The Crucible Threats just can't stick around. Plus, I think they only run 1 basic. They could potentially have a Swamp, but this is probably just exile target creature. Yep. Don't need to be taking that 2 damage every turn for no reason. There's a land drop, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable at 17. I also get 3 draws next turn. Yep, restocking the hand, makes sense. And Oblivion Stone. So of note, they actually have they have Ancient Grudge in the graveyard, so I need to keep an eye on that. If I Oblivion Stone here, I'd only be able to snag the Bloodghast. Actually, that might be the best play, because then I can hit the Bloodghast. If they make the landfall drop, none of the Bloodghast will have haste. That'll save me at least 4 damage here. But let's start off by cycling. And I cycled incorrectly. Alright, well, I forgot I don't have Tron active, so I can only put out Oblivion Stone. They'll make their landfall, get their Bloodghast back, blow it up. I think right now I'm just on Sylvan Scrying to set up for Tron next turn. So need to get a mines, power plant, tower. There's my tower. And looking at taking 4 next turn, they might hardcast a Creeping Chill to give it haste because they didn't crack it in step. Nope, just still trying to see their entire graveyard. By the way, deck, we have 4 pieces of graveyard hate. At any point in time, feel free to give us one. We looked at 10 cards with Ancient Stirrings on top of already drawing 18 of them. I guess that's seeing an additional 8 cards, because we actually did draw 2 of them. Alright, and this is where all the big creatures come in. Rip and/or a Relic would probably just be game here. Depending on how conservative they are with their graveyard, they could potentially be beaten by Ugin again. We have some great draws. We just really need to see them. Of note, Bloodghast still don't have haste. 1 Prized Amalgam coming back in. 1 Bloodghast potentially coming in. Crack that fetch land. You know you want to do it. You don't know about the Oblivion Stone. For shame. They actually sequenced correctly. Alright. Guess we're going for Tron. Cycle away. Path. Oblivion Stone goes out. They're going to grudge it. Luckily, they actually have to crack this land if they want to grudge it. So we have a little control, plus we have a path for whatever runner they have afterwards. Dredged into another Amalgam, another Bloodghast. So blow up the board. Bring back 3 Bloodghast, 2 Prized Amalgams, and opponents forcing the issue. I really don't want to take beats from an Amalgam, and we don't have any redraws currently available, so we're living off the top of our deck. Path to Exile is going to hit an Amalgam the second I get an opportunity. And our very comfortable life total has become a 2-turn clock. They still haven't seen another Conflagrate, but they're dredging at least 4 next turn, or 5 next turn. They do have a Creeping Chill in hand. That feels like bad sequencing. If they just hardcast that, they could have attacked in for 6. And they had a second land. I don't know what's going on over there. So currently looking at 9 damage with the 3 in the hand, so we are dead here. We actually have to see a draw with this Ancient Stirrings. Which looks like Oblivion Stone is a draw. Still haven't seen another Ancient Grudge. This is only going to buy us a turn. Horizon Canopy is just a redraw. There goes another rip. But that's fine. Oblivion Stone will buy us as much time as we need it to. If they have a grudge here, we lose. But they don't. Oh boy, that is rough. That is so rough. That's some pretty good running, opponent. Oh, they discarded this Creeping Chill. That's why they couldn't cast it. And there's the Narcomoeba too. So if they go to blow up Oblivion Stone here and have a fetchable land, we are pretty screwed. But we'll see if they've got it. Because they have to make a land drop to get these Blood Gas back, but then it's 6 damage on the table. Yep, they got it. So kind of going back, we put 12 cards on the bottom of our library and didn't see a threat. That's how Tron loses. Alright, so I didn't see anything I actually care about here. So I think we're just going to run it back. All of our threats were at the bottom. A little disappointing. But currently 1-1 against Dredge. We're on the play. Should be a huge up. We have so many good outs here. To be fair, opponent did have 2 fairly slow draws, but that's a weakness of both of our decks. I was playtesting this and I got Elish Norn out a turn after my opponent grape shotted for 8 and then emptied the Warrens with like 12 storm triggers, and it just felt amazing. Killed their Electromancer, killed off their entire board, hit my Relic, all main board. And that is not playable. As much as I like Relic, that's not playable. And that's not playable. Alright. I really need to be able to hit my land for Ugin, so that's going to the bottom. Rip would be fantastic. Just mulliganed away 13 cards and drew 5 more. In 18 we saw a single Relic, but no lands in that hand. Seems a little unlikely we don't have the Graveyard Hate, but as they say, Ugin fixes all problems. This dude's a beast. War of the Spark should be interesting because Ugin's going to come back for his fight with Bolas. Ugin's a big blue boy. I know he fought on Zendikar when we returned to Zendikar, but I actually don't know what happened out of that. Like, we had Crux of Fate, destroy all dragons or non-dragons, but I think that, like, Bolas got wounded or something and retreated back to Amonkhet. I'm not very good with the lore. But I'd love to see another Ugin Planeswalker. Maybe even a smaller version like the new Karn. Just something 4 or 5 mana, kind of big effect, but colorless. And looking for a miracle off the top because we're staring down 10 damage. Yeah, opponent should have waited until end step. But that's fine. Alright, Ancient Stirrings into mine. And we have a shot here. Oh, look at that. Always know your outs, ladies and gentlemen. and play a deck that's insanely unfair. Two best rules for Modern. Know your outs, play an unfair deck. Alright, so opponent's going all in here. I'm going to be able to -3 on Ugin. He's going to walk away with 4 counters. There is no Conflagrate at the current moment. I'm still at a somewhat healthy 13. Creeping Chill does make any future Blood Gas active, though. And they're going to be dredging 5. It's possible we see a Conflagrate for 0, just so that if we do have Ugin, they'll be able to take him out. I don't know what else opponent could be looking at. They know we're going to have Tron and 8 mana, so... We opted out of Karn into some of the more random threats, like Elishnorn and a Johnny. Flashback Faithless Looting. Dredge, dredge, dredge. And there's the Creeping Chill. I got 2 of them. So that Conflagrate is lethal, isn't it? They dredge a life from the loam. They go up to 5 cards. Play a land, go down to 4. Conflagrate for 7, and we're at 7. Alright, so they have lethal on board, but we'll see if they see the line. They have been doing a couple of missequences with their Shriekhorns and going to combat and not getting their land drops and not hitting Oblivion Stone at the right time. They still might be a little new to Dredge, so we're going to see if we can get there. But there's the Mine. There's the Ugin. -3. Goodbye Dredge board. And see if you've got your Conflagrate line. Opponent's trying to figure out what to dredge. They take Stinkweed Imp. Okay, so that's still going to be lethal. F6. If we see the Conflagrate, we'll concede. Yeah, that's rough. We took a single hit. But Dredge doing what Dredge does. That's why you need sideboard hate. Alright, GG's opponent. I think we should have been able to take that, but it is what it is. Reset match record. Currently overall 1-1. And that is a very nasty hand. That's a pretty nasty hand. That's a mediocre hand. That has Tron and a Thought-Knot. Second star doesn't progress our game plan. We want a threat. Basic Island. Alright, Merfolk. Merfolk has Spreading Seas. That's going to be the big concern there. And we'll see if they've got it. I've seen a lot more Merfolk lately. I know they got a couple of new pieces in Ixalan and Guilds of Ravnica, but yep, there's the Spreading Seas. But they had to take out all of their Lord for their new toys, so they're basically just playing the humans game plan. I don't have as much incentive here to Sylvan Scrying into Tron, so I actually think I'm going to hold up the warping well so that I can get rid of the Biomancer when they go to activate the Adept. And another Spreading Seas. Interesting. Alright, That's hard. This won't actually give me colorless. I think I'm on this for now. So we're just going to exile it before it can get any chip damage in. Clearly they're on a very disruptive game plan. They've only got 3 cards in hand. And a Spell Pierce. Wow. Alright, well, Sylvan Scrying will get our colorless for Thought-Knot. Another mine is perfectly okay. We want green off of this guy. We get another Sylvan Scrying. That's fun. Ooh, what do I actually want here? So, if I get green, I can cast Sylvan Scrying again. Horizon Canopy can be a redraw. So that means I can get Horizon Canopy, run out Thought-Knot, Sylvan Scrying, and then sack it the following turn when I have a little more information. Yeah, I think I'm on board for that. Harbinger of the Tides. Luckily doesn't do too much against us. They return a tapped creature. Until they get a Lord, they're not going to be able to get through Thought-Knot anyway. And Oblivion Stone is super cute. Alright, so yeah, I think I'm still on Thought-Knot. Try to take out their biggest threat. Have a potential blocker if they don't have a Lord. Vapor Snag, Harbinger of the Tides, and Counterspell. So they can bounce Thought-Knot. They can counter one of our big threats, or they can bounce a tapped creature. So they need to have Trickster in order to double combo us there. I think I'm taking the Counterspell. It's just the highest upside play for them. They're going to bounce our Thought-Knot to get in damage, and then we can just replay him. Like nothing lost. That doesn't seem quite right. They probably should have bounced, but that's fine. So Sylvan Scrying can get another piece. We know they have Harbinger and Vapor Snag. We're going up to 5 mana. Yeah, I think we're going to try to do it all. Oblivion Stone. That'll get us Tron back. Sylvan Scrying to get our Power Plant. And then next turn we're threatening to blow up the world so they can't even Vapor Snag our Thought-Knot anymore. Oblivion Stone is such a good card. Alright, so we're on the table for 8, but all they have is a Vapor Snag and a Harbinger. On the table for 11. Alright, so 5 to blow up the world. It's going to be those 5. We'll have 3 left over. And following turn we'll take out Mutavault. Seems fine. Gonna wait until their combat step so we can get rid of the most number of creatures and potentially block Thought-Knot against Mutavault before blowing up the world. so opponent quite correctly doesn't go all in. And here I don't want to take the damage from Horizon Canopy, which is why I'm leaving it for last. We don't have anything additional to do with the 3 mana. World Breaker luckily is going to be a cast trigger. We can take out the Mutavault. And then this Harbinger's threatening 2 damage instant speed, but whatever. Loots whenever he adapts. So currently showing 10. So let's see if I have this correct. So I can Sylvan Scrying, have up 6/9, go get Sanctum of Ugin, go get a better threat. Seems good. Sanctum of Ugin, whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or higher, you get a tutor for... Oh, I didn't leave green available. Yep, I just mistapped. That is super unfortunate. Alright, so Nature's Claim comes in because of Spreading Seas. Really don't like that. Night of Autumn is a consideration here. Again, hits Spreading Seas. Not the best. Wrath of God is fantastic for their go wide strategy. Dismember to take out a Lord is pretty clutch. Crucible of Worlds doesn't really do much. They don't run any of the disruptive Ghost Quarters or Field of Ruins. Walking Ballista loses value quite quickly, but I'm going to see if there's something else I want to cut first. Elesh Norn. This is another matchup where Elesh Norn, if she ever comes out, is going to be fantastic. Thought-Knot feels pretty bad here. Relic can come out. It's just a cantrip. We had to mulligan pretty hard and then saw the wrong side of our deck again. That's just going to be a pretty common cause for this deck. So Walking Ballista for 2 is going to basically trade 1 for 1 with a lot of their smaller creatures before Lords. It just doesn't feel good enough. And I think that's where we're at. I don't think Night of Autumn's any better than Dismember or Spatial Contortion. It might be better than a Johnny. But we just have so many good cards. The problem is always finding them, but we do have so many good cards. Alright, so this hand looks pretty unkeepable, but... Sorry about that. So this is turn 1, Tower into Star, into Ancient Stirrings into a land, into a potential Sylvan Scrying, as well as mana fixing, exiling a creature, path, like... It really depends on the strength of the Stirrings, but it's a very powerful card, so I'm willing to put some pressure on it to do well. If they have Spell Pierce for it, then it's probably just game. But I like every other part of this, and Vial is typically their go-to play if they have it. Yep. Okay, so of note, we are putting a Mine to the bottom as well as Elesh Norn. But Mine is important because if they end up putting Spreading Seas on us, we did reveal Mine, so they might target Mine. Master of Waves. Alright, we'll see if they have a Curse Catcher here. They do not, which means we get our power plant, lay down the power plant, and... So this is technically half a card, and anytime you talk to a Merfolk player, they say this is the best card in their deck, but it's because it replaces itself. I think I'm just on Signet, because it's going to mana fix us into Path to Exile, and Ancient Stirrings and Nature's Claim. Right now, we have a very controlling hand, and we can manage a lot of what the opponent's doing. Yep, and this is why this card is good. Alright, Sanctum of Ugin. I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to be pathing the Lord here, which means I might need to do this. Oh, this is awkward. Okay, so I can Ancient Stirrings, try to find a threat if I don't path, but that gives them an additional mana for their turn. They can just hard cast Master, but I can exile it with Warping Well. Yeah, I think we're good enough that we can just Ancient Stirrings and try to find something better. Thought Knot, Ulamog, Tower. We haven't made our land drop. We currently have 7 mana on the table. We don't have a reliable threat, though. It's going to be Ulamog. We need to end this game. Any order for these guys? Path the Lord. Make our land drop for turn. That's currently 8-9 mana. So we need 1 more mana, which means we could potentially just Warping Well in the Scion. It's the least used mode, but feels like the highest upside at the current moment. Of note, if they go to flash in and I want to actually exile, they are going to get priority to put it in before I can see that it's a Lord. But I'm just going to try to Ulamog. Seven, 8, 9. You always want to tap your Sanctum because you have to sacrifice it when you cast it. And I want to exile these 2 first so I can actually see what I'm dealing with before I decide what I want to tutor. I don't think I care. So I can path a creature in response, but that doesn't effectively do anything. And World Breakers are next best threat in colorless. One of the flaws with going with white. So the tricky play that this deck gets to do is Merfolk Trickster into Harbinger to bounce a creature to hand, but they're just going to attack our tower here. That's fine. We have an active Ulamog. And my path is pointed directly at that Master of Waves, which is why I didn't care if I let them get more tokens or not. The tokens are going to dispirit the Master. Alright, so 4 mana. $20 cards exiled. Always good for him to look to see what they brought in. It doesn't look like they really brought anything in. And more Nature's Claims. So Crucible probably should have been one of these Nature's Claims, seeing as they have Tech Edge. We didn't know that going in, though. So we're taking 6 with 8 on the table, which means this Nature's Claim is probably going to keep us alive. Unless we do that. I am very afraid of Harbinger here. They probably would have done it during their turn, though, before the trigger could go off. And again, nothing particularly new. They are running 4 copies of Spell Pierce, though. And before they get the opportunity to draw, I'm just going to Nature's Claim now. This is going to gain us 4 life and get us out of range of them just nuking us to the ground. Ooh, that's rough. Alright, well... not sure what to say about that. If they have 2 lords, they're going to take it. Alright. So, Crucible comes in. Nature's Claim. This is just so good against the Spreading Seas plan, and they showed us a couple of them. Might just be an Oblivion Stone. Maybe the Dismember. This is going to cost us 4 life, and that's probably whatever Lord is going to cost us. We do have more than one answer than the typical Tron list, so that seems fine. Thragtusk is a backup beater, as well as gaining some life seems also a little relevant. I don't know, this Knight of Autumn's also looking a little bit better too, but that was probably just because we went so low on life and shouldn't really go down that way. Yeah, we can just run it back. We're on the draw, but we have a very powerful deck. Like, this right here is beautiful. So pretty. Yep, there's the vial. And I actually think I'm just going to blow that up. Sometimes your opponent keeps hands based on the strength of vial. If they only have a single island, we could potentially steal the game here. I think we're far enough. Like, our hand does enough that we're fine. If they end up Spreading Seas us. So... yep, we are on Sylvan Scrying. Go get our last piece, which is a mine. And that's why you run out your duplicate pieces first. So I don't think Crucible's high enough value here that we need to actually protect it with our lives. Tower is also a redundant piece. I'm mildly inclined just to set up Expedition Map into Cycling or Expedition Map into Warping Well. If they go to loot, then I'm definitely going to exile the creature. Otherwise, they don't really run too many sorceries. This is basically exile target creature before Lord comes down. And this is potentially redrawn to a bigger threat. A lot of our threats need colored, though, so I'm not sure. Alright, if they're not doing anything, then I guess we'll just go grab another Tron piece. Ooh. It actually might be correct here to get Sanctum. Because we'll run out Tron, we have duplicate pieces of just about everything. They don't know we have a duplicate mine. I think Oblivion Stone is the best card here. It's going to get countered, though, which is the main thing I'm concerned about. Well, there's the mine. And I think Warping Well is still our best play. Because they're going to go to Adapt. Okay, I have no idea what opponent's doing. They're definitely representing Wizard's Retort. Yeah, I'm kind of just at a loss. Alright, so another power plant comes down. 3. They're going to counter it. Yep, so they're banking on that. Then Crucible of Worlds. So we can cycle this and start drawing every turn. We're currently on the table for 3. We can't hold up Warping Well and sack Horizon Canopy, so just going to let this be for the moment. Unfortunately, they have a lot of cards in hand, and they've shown us like 10 counterspells in their deck. This 3 damage beats is going to get there since we had to damage ourselves so much off Horizon Canopy. But we have an engine. Oh my gosh, I didn't leave green available again. I'm so bad at this game. Alright, so we're on the table for 3. I don't want them to be able to loot for no value. In step, Warping Well, next turn World Breaker if they tap out to save it. But some horrible punts this game. Absolutely horrible. Every day I'm punting. Yeah, so they didn't care about that. If I World Breaker, get rid of this. Because I have to get green out. I learned that lesson. So green, 3. World Breaker. If I exile this, I'll have 4 mana, which means I can go get a Thought Knot and run out of Thought Knot. And they have to have 2 counter spells. This is our best out. It's not great, but it's our best out. So there's Thought Knot. And if they have Vapor Snag, I think they just get us. Yep, they've got it. Alright, GG's opponent. Should have put up a better fight there. Well, currently 1 and 2. Definitely should have taken Dredge. The Merfolk was probably just me misplaying. It's definitely winnable, even with what we had. I think Game 2 is just getting horribly screwed by mulligans, but Game 3 was definitely something that I threw away myself. There are just so many cards in those 2 matchups that we lost that would have been fantastic. We just didn't see them. That is one of the fatal flaws of Ancient Sterns, though. A lot of the cards I was hoping to see were Elesh Norn and Wrath of God, and a lot of our sideboard cards, like Night of Autumn, would have been great in Game 1, but Ancient Sterns just won't grab those, which is why a lot of people have started to move away from the 2-color build that requires a lot of your 2 colors. The strength of being able to run White and Tron is getting Rip, and you can get Relic off of Ancient Sterns, but you can't get Rip. Oh my gosh, this has to be a mulligan, but this looks like a fairly stock control hand. Couple of cantrips, couple of setups, and then a finisher. I'll take this one as Thirteene screwed up. If we take a loss here. And it is actually control. Alright, so we have 3 redraws and 2 tutors. That seems fine for control, at least to start off with. Alright. So we have plenty of colored sources. We don't need creature removal. Ugin seems fine, but I think we just want the Tron land. Unfortunately, this tells our opponent what we're doing. If we could have gotten something like a Horizon Canopy, they would have thought that we were potentially hardened skells, but... Oh, and look at that. The worst finisher for control finally shows up. Alright, they can't Logic Knot here. They can Spell Snare. I think I'm just going for a land. If they have Spell Snare, they have Spell Snare. Oh, Remand's fine. I'm not a fan of Remand in blue-white. It is a way to draw a Miracle card on your opponent's turn, but you need hard counters, not temporary answers when you're playing blue-white. You're expecting a long game. And I can't do anything at instant speed, so I will go ahead and go get our white source. Then I believe I'm actually just on Sylvan Scrying into Power Plant and play Power Plant into his Expedition map. Because like opponents developing their mana, but we actually have a lot of our finishers, so if we can even develop our board state here, if they have another Field of Ruin, we're just going to ramp into our big spells, and Ajani's going to be pretty game-ending against them. That Jace is kind of annoying, but... Alright, Walkie B. I don't think he does anything I actually care about at the current moment. He could potentially eat a path, though. So I play my land for turn, he gets pathed. That's going to be 5 mana. Next turn is 6 Slam Ajani. That doesn't seem good enough. Versus Walkie B down for 2 and start threatening Jace by attacking. Yeah, that feels like highest upside. Force them to have the removal. Really? When we win, we're not going to win through chip damage, so just going to hit Jace. And a Field of Ruin. Alright, opponent's definitely going to town. That is, like, about as good as they could hope for. So they're representing Cryptic Command. That's why they didn't crack the Field of Ruin. Elish Norn's not going to do anything here. Can I play the mindset they know that the Field of Ruin won't actually do much? I still actually want all of my mana despite the fact that I have Tron, but I think I'm just going to spend this turn dirtling away on cantrips. Actually, am I? Do I want them to counter Elish Norn? Because I can just put out Elish Norn, and they're going to have to counter it, and then that'll allow me to Ajani if they try to do anything else for their turn. The problem is that opponents actually presented themselves in the position of controlling the game. They have the Cryptic Command more than likely, and they have an active Jace, which means if they can just keep us off of our plays for a couple of turns, then we're just going to lose. That's just how it's set up. So I think I want to try to run them out of their counters. Okay, that's a pretty good draw. That's a mediocre draw. Elish Norn's going to get canceled. Oh, no. Okay, they might go to bounce it at instep then. I don't know what opponent's doing. They had another Terminus stacked, of course. Alright, that's unfortunate. So funny enough, at this board state, I think Ajani's going to do better. His +2 is reveal the top 3 cards of your library, put all non-land permanents revealed this way into your hand, and the rest on the bottom. Most of our deck is permanent, so he's just going to end up drawing anywhere between 1 to 3 a turn. And then Ugin can deal with a lot of stuff, but let's see. So let's Ancient Stirring, see if that's actually worth baiting a counter. It is not, and opponent might be F6'd. I like counter target sorcery. They'll know we have it, though. What kind of mana do I have here? So I can do 3 for Oblivion Stone, 4, 5, 6 for a Johnny. I think that's my line. Try to bait removing Jace with the Oblivion Stone. And they didn't take it. Alright. Well, opponent, we're probably going to the next game here. Pause while they read a Johnny Unyielding, modern staple. Counter target spell draw. Yep, makes sense. And for those of you unaware, the new art on Ajani actually has a squirrel in it. So Ajani has been proven to be my new personal hero. Good on you, Ajani. Alright, so I'm trying to bait opponent here. They're going to Field of Ruin in response. No, huh? Mine. Alright. Oh, I only have 9 mana. Well, still gonna Ugin. There it is. Fail to find. And they have a remand. Lovely. Alright. I think opponents had an active Jace for a little bit too long, though. Yeah, that's fine. If Ugin lands, we're clearing the board. Or if Oblivion Stone lands. So I need 5... I need 2 more mana before that's live. We'll go for mine, play the mine. And sequencing here is just going to be this first. And blow it up. Do you have a bird opponent? You have been running very strangely. They're going to bounce. They're going to cryptic bounce something. Or not? I have no idea what opponent's doing. They're sequencing this so weird and still stacking Terminus on top of their deck and... There's Teferi. Is he going to tuck Oblivion Stone? Yep, tucked Oblivion Stone. So I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. Unfortunately, all of my colorless threats are in hand, but I'm going to take advantage of my cast trigger here. And get rid of Teferi and a Colonnade. And funny enough, I actually didn't want that Oblivion Stone, so being able to shuffle here with the Sanctum is going to be fantastic. Alright. So if I sacrifice Sanctum of Ugin here, I can go get a Thought Knot, but I can't cast it yet. But I'm running out of good targets for this, so... Walking Ballista for 1 is actually a threat here. That's hilarious. I'm glad I sacrificed to go look. Because they have to answer this, otherwise I can buff it twice a turn. So I'm expecting an opponent to untap and path. Goodbye, Ulamog. Or Terminus. Lame. Alright, well I do want the Walking Ballista in my deck. Wait. Okay, whatever. That's fine. Let's see if your Teferi can tuck again. I want to try to find a better answer for that, like that. So this is going to be on cast trigger, which makes it significantly better. And I'm actually going to tap green this time, because apparently that is the cost of actually casting a World Breaker, is green. And opponent's probably got another Terminus in hand. I wanted to shuffle because Ulamog was on the bottom. Wasn't expecting to get anything, but you have to keep track of where your cards are at. Yep, Tuck's Oblivion Stone. And let's try this again. I can't do it like that. I need to have colorless available. Cryptic! You gonna finally hard counter him? Mission briefing for remand. Deep, opponent, deep. And this is why remands are kind of okay, is because I've been dropping threat after threat after threat, and opponents just been digging, 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 and they're trying really hard to get to the point that they can answer my stuff, but this isn't really cutting it. Didn't really want to shuffle there. Oh, I'm out of mines. Well done, opponent. So I'm actually going to need my mana, so I'm going to grab a tower here. And there's a Jace. So win conditions coming down to Celestial Colonnade. Or ulting a Planeswalker. Six mana. I'll give it one more draw, but we're pretty out of this. And a Gideon. I guess that's actually a good reason to stick around, so I can see all their win conditions. So they're not running Snapcaster Mage. That is one thing of note here. I also haven't seen the main board rip, which is pretty common in some of the pro players' decks at the moment. And then this is going to create a colorless Scion for me, so if I get a land drop, I can cast Ugin. But opponent's seen so many cards, I can't imagine they don't have a hard counter at this point. And gonna take my free chip damage at Teferi here. I think he's the biggest threat of Ultimate. Jace might get there faster, but Teferi's is actually going to exile our board state and just make this miserable. Meanwhile, if Ugin sticks and I can minus, then they're just on colonnades. Oh, they're on extra turn spells. That might be why they're acting so weird with their draws. Alright, well, let's see what opponent can do. We're F6'd. They can go to town. If they would have attacked in with Colonnade, they would have had us on a 2-turn clock. Or can they activate Colonnade twice? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so opponent's making some really interesting decisions. Like, they could have ended this game quite easily multiple times. But let's see if you got it. Yep, good enough. So, they're on mission briefing. They only showed us 2 of them in the top 45 cards of their deck. That's probably not great. Rule of Law is a little interesting just because it'll make it so that they can't mission briefing or multi-spell. Knight of Autumn as a general threat seems fine. Definitely need to bring in Crucible. I like the threat diversity of Thragtusk. As well as if they do answer him, then we still get a 3/3 out of it. As far as cut, Spatial Contortion is bad, and Path can hit Gideon and Colonnade, but that's about it. It's just a dead draw the rest of the time. Warping Well, probably not the best. I do like that it can counter Terminus, but aside from the fact that we had a really weird start to this game, like, we don't rely on our creatures all that much. But we are a worse version of green. Green should beat up on control pretty hard. And last time we did keep a hand with no Tron lands in it. I don't think we can keep that. If we scry into a Tron land, we have Tron, but that's it. We might just be letting our opponent have this one. At the current moment, I'm not really feeling like sitting through blue-white control and watching them stumble when it doesn't look like they're super experienced with the deck and are definitely on a non-optimal list. It's fun to play around with stuff. I played with Temporal Mastery for a little while, but it just wasn't good enough for the deck for me to actually want to run with it. And it just gets frustrating on the other side when you're running a suboptimal build. So opponent is running a lot of counter spells, which is why I'm going to Sylvan Scrying here. We can crack this and get a trigger as opposed to a cast. May as well just grab mine and ship it back. Interesting. So Relic can come down. Then next turn we'll have Tron and a Thought-Knot Seer. Need Power Plant. I'm actually really looking at this Thragtusk. I think it's going to be a stronger play. I want to see their hand. Control loses so much power when we can see their hand. Plus they have to counter it here, as opposed to just... If Thragtusk sticks, he's so much better. Okay, that's fine. I will run it back. Alright, so I'm going to take a second to describe what opponent's doing here. So they can draw Jace, put Entreat on top, and get a ton of angels. They can just stick to Fairy and have a threat, or they can try to counter us out for the rest of the game. As much as I don't want to stare down chaining Cryptic commands, exiling to Fairy here is exiling their primary win condition, and Warping Well is really good versus the angels, which are not coming next turn. So if I can use Warping Well as a tempo play against Cryptic Command, then it's going to be a huge upside for us, and them never being able to stick to fairies good enough that I am going to commit to that line. And then we want to keep their graveyard clear for mission briefing. If for whatever strange reason they have Snapcaster on the sideboard, that's why we want to do that. Alright. Sure, you get an extra turn. And then it also stops his Conta from flipping. Alright, so if I Thrag Tusk, then that means I have 3 mana available, which means I can pop and crack Warping Well. Although that just gives them something to use their mana on, so I'm not going to give them something to start chaining Cryptics against. And I've said it before, but Relic, you want to not give them the option. If for whatever reason they'd prefer to exile Cryptic Command over Opt, this doesn't allow them to do that. And opponent has shown that they really don't want to start using their mana effectively yet, so I'm going to try to cantrip into something a little bit like that. There's no way that they're going to Cryptic that. If they do, I'll have no idea what opponent's thinking. Jay's Friend's Prodigy, huh? Oh, but that'll give them a target for Cryptic. So will that. Okay, so I think the game plan is actually still just Thrag Tusk into Warping Well. So they'll counter the Thrag Tusk and then we'll get the free exile on Jace. Yep, counter draw and exile Jace. I won't be popping the Relic anytime soon, so it's fine to just let that mana go to waste. And I am sorry, I am getting a ton of text messages again. Unfortunately, we're live to a... What the F? Okay, I had to leave ourselves open to Terminus at this point, but opponent's at 5. And they just turned back on our Relic for us. Let's take a look at our deck really quick. So Elish Norn is double white, nothing else is double green. So we'll take the plains. We know opponent still has a Cryptic Command in hand. Yeah, an opponent can expose themselves to much more damage here. Like next turn they're going to have to start using their Cryptics to start tapping down our team. I do want to get that Field of Ruin. We are live to Crucible of Worlds, and they're going to bounce Thought Knot here. That's fine. And Stearns is an alright draw. Probably should have done that during our turn. Walking Ballista. Alright, so we know they have Cryptic Command. I think I'm going to see if they want to take the Stirrings with Cryptic. Which they don't. They hit our Mine. So Tower doesn't really do anything super effective for us. But a backup Thought Knot Seer is another threat. So filter all the manas. Thought Knot Seer gets countered. Yep. So that's all the lands have come down. They still have Entreat. They cast a Temporal Mastery and both Cryptics, so we don't know the hand. This is where Entreat goes on top of the deck, and opponent's going to try to come back from there. Which means we have to hope that they're not on a hard counter, and then... Yeah, I missequenced that. I should have done that before. I got distracted by all the text messages. So Oblivion Stone is our out here, and we don't have enough mana to crack it in response to this, so... Yep, there's the Entreat. And they're only doing 3, which means they got another Cryptic command. If we get a land, we can run out 2 Oblivion Stones. The 3 Angels will only be able to do 12 damage, which means that we are technically on the clock there. That also means that we get 1 more turn. So, Sylvan Scrying, and they don't counter it. Alright, so they took our mine. Play the mine for turn. Tower taps for 3. Cryptic counter draw. And Oblivion Stone number 2. Then just going to cash in the Relic. We have Tron, so it doesn't hurt Crucible. We get an additional draw. I'm not going to use that. And then opponent has to have another Cryptic to bounce this, otherwise their Entreat's not going to be live. We will be at 2 life, which is unfortunate, though. Oh, never mind. They just stack in with Colonnade. Yep, GG's. Well, I did a test run with this league and cashed out. It's definitely possible, but this isn't looking great here. Control does feel like one of our worst matchups, like kind of going back to the deck list. We're running Path to Exile, Cantrips, Tutors. Like, if they can counter the right piece, it's hard. We're not running the 7 Karn plan so that we can get Karn out in response to their turn 2 Search for Azcanta. We're also not running so many copies of Ulamog, so we can't just nuke away all of the lands and get our cast triggers and get multiple copies of threats. We only have 1 copy of Sanctum. As I stated at the start, we are a weak copy of green, but we get to play fun cards. Like, we have Elish Norn. And this is awful. So Stearns could potentially get us a land. Expedition Map will get us a 2nd land. We have Selesnya Signet and Walking Ballista by Time, but that's just not what this deck does. This is a little bit more along the speed of what we do. We have our Tron and a Horizon Canopy. So we're looking for a threat. Signet does not do it. Always lead out with your redundant pieces first. Now that Field of Ruin's a thing, it is almost funny to say you want to run out with your 1 copy first, because then that baits out their Field of Ruin on the thing you think you have copies of. But we're going to have Tron. Turn 4, we get another cycle. We're going to see 2 cards and then cycle for 4 cards in 3 turns. Opponent is on Inkmoth Nexus, so... or we just have Tron. But no payoffs. This is Hardened Scale's Affinity or potentially Infect, both of which are probably bad for us. You typically bring in Stony Silence versus Tron, so despite the access to white, we're not running the sideboard hate for Hardened Scales. Plus they come down low to the ground and we have to like nuke the world, and they have Welding Jars, and it's looking more like Infect. Looking a lot more like Infect. So they shouldn't have any land destruction, which means I'm going to grab Sanctum here. Just confirming. Mine, tower, power plant. Then if we get one threat, we have two. Now, it seems like Horizon Canopy could actually potentially be the correct play here because we could just cycle this turn, but if we draw an Ugin next turn, we need to have Tron as well as an additional land drop, so we can't sack our land yet. Oh, Horizon Canopy could have also been correct if we drew Elish Norn. Elish Norn is just GG's here, but we'd need double white. We'll see if opponent can kill us, though. So currently representing 3 damage with no buff spells. They can't have Become Immense, bet any number of mutagenic growths, and we could probably be dead. They've hit a land drop, so Groundswell and Might of Old Crozier are both +4. Kicked Vines, goes up to 5. Well, in all honesty, 5's not that bad. But we do need some action here. Warping Well. Beautiful. Alright, so we are 100% on Warping Well, which means I am cycling. Although, I don't want to do it with Tower. Tower gives 3. We're likely going to lose this mana. And that is also unfortunate. So, when playing against Infect, because a lot of their spells give hexproof, you want to actually do most of these spells on your turn. If they untap and have hexproof, that's bad, but they can also just invest in this Inkmoth Nexus. I know I can take their creature, but if they have another spell, we just lose there. So I'm going to pass and probably die. Then we have to draw a tower to get this Ulamog live to take out their 2 infect creatures. Warping Well, secretly good against infect. Also super bad against Pendelhaven. The text on this actually reads, exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. So if we target it, they can just Pendelhaven it to make it survive. Alright, so hope and a prayer here. They only attacked with 1 creature. If they don't buff it, we have Tower. If they do buff it, we can, in response, Warping Well it. And unfortunately, if they start with Pendelhaven, which they should, unless they have multiple buff spells, it's not going to do anything. And they tapped incorrectly, so we might have a shot here. Warping Well is not unheard of, but it is a little uncommon. I'm definitely a fan of having some control and some interaction, and that's not exactly how Modern's always played, but this card checks a lot of boxes. Because they had to pay green-green, it means that they don't have anything else to respond with unless it's colorless. If they have mutagenic growth and they are on the know about it, if they mutagenic growth, it should survive, and then Vines will actually survive. Well, get off and then we'll die. But it looks like they didn't have it. Or didn't know. Alright. So what can I even draw into here? So if I cycle Horizon Canopy, I go to 6 mana. I can Johnny, Thought Knot, all those are recipes for death against a flying creature. Oblivion Stone, wouldn't have enough mana to sack it. I think that's putting me on just running out Horizon Canopy. If they do invest all in on this Inkmoth, then I can crack Horizon Canopy. Our life total doesn't matter, so paying 1 life for a color even if it has to stay out a couple of turns to Ulamog and follow up, won't damage us nearly as much as the Infect will. Alright, and if they're on another Blighted Agent, we might be good. No, this would be Glistener Elf. But it's too much. I don't know what opponent's doing again. I'm guessing that they're either trying to activate Inkmoth Nexus or they need to do blue over here for the Sanctum to get another infected creature out. And if they tap the Pendelhaven for a Blighted Agent, then that means that our Ulamog's going to get both their infected creatures. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Now we're potentially dead to Hexproof and Might of Old Crows, though. But definitely have been in worse positions before. Oh, that might have been missequencing. If we would have Sanctum last turn, we could have actually gone and got another threat. Instead, we have to play a Tron land. That's something I could have done better. But we're going to try to get their 2 creatures. They have to blow a Hexproof spell here if they have it. And then they have to have a +4 to the power to kill us next turn. Yep, they have the Vines. The opponent likely has multiple buff spells, hexproof spells, and spell pierces in hand, potentially a Become Immense. Like, their entire hand is buff spells or counter spells, and that's the game. Might of Old Crows, it gives +4/+4. If cast in their main phase, they hit us for 5, we die from Infect. So, Nature's Claim. Oddly good here. It hits their creature at instant speed, their manland at instant speed. Dismember, also surprisingly good here. You can turn a colorless into a kill spell. // also is actually kind of relevant against any kind of their fun shenanigans with Regenerate, but I guess it's more appropriate with Hardened Scale's Affinity. Thragtusk does nothing. We don't care about life gain. 1 spell a turn is actually funny, but I don't think we're bringing it in. This means that they can't buff multiple turns, or they can't protect if they decide to buff. We just need to be really quick here, though. This is a really bad matchup for us. Warping Well still kills them. Spatial Contortion still kills them. Oblivion Stone doesn't hit their manland, which is unfortunate, so that's potentially on the chopping block. Thought Knot can see their hand and take away the most painful piece of interaction. A Johnny can exile, but it's hard to cast. Elish Norn is just GG's. Worldbreaker hits their creature land. Walking Ballista is fantastic. I think I just talked myself out of Relic. This would be for Become Immense. It's a Delve cast. And then probably just a Johnny. A little too hard to cast. You need to have Tron and your color fixing. I need to update the record. We have not been doing fantastic tonight. We will take the play. We have turn 3 Tron and a Dismember. I'm on board. So Chromatic Star into Sylvan Scrying into mine. That gives us 7 mana. Dismember's going to take out a threat. Horizon Canopy cantrips. Ulamog might be a little slow, so we got to hope they're on 1 creature. And hopefully they invest into it early. Tower Ho. So, Infect typically actually puts Spellskite in their sideboard. Spellskite will let them pay 2 life to change the target of a spell or ability to Spellskite, so it saves their creatures from removal repeatedly. I can't imagine they bring it in against us. It's not like they know that we're running the 4 paths and... Okay, whatever. If you're taking your turn to Nature's Claim us, that means that we still get to draw a card and we're still going to Sylvan Scrying on 2. Or we're probably just going to Spatial Contortion on 2. And we got our Nature's Claim too. Alright, all the fun interaction. Yeah, I'm on Spatial Contortion. Because we wouldn't be able to dismember anyway, and if we do happen to top deck Tron, we'll just have a lot of mana. Although if we top deck Tron, there's nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's probably missequencing. If we do draw mine, the most we're going to do is Horizon Canopy and Scrying into Sanctum or Second Tower. Hey, look, they did bring in the Spellskite. Alright, well, Dismember is actually relevant here because the 0/4 Spatial Contortion wouldn't be able to kill it. So, goodbye, Spellskite. Yeah, that was horrible sequencing because now I want to leave up the Nature's Claim for the Inkmoth Nexus, but can't because I didn't Scrying. Actually, that works. So, Horizon Canopy, run our Expedition map. We now have Nature's Claim for the Inkmoth Nexus, and we can also crack the map at end of turn. Tron is happening. It's going to happen this game. They didn't give us a chance last game, but it's going to happen this game. Interesting. This must be a kind of budget build. I don't think they run Hinterland Harbor because they just want fast lands. Unless they're running like Jace or something in the sideboard for control matchups. That doesn't make sense though because these guys come out so fast they typically just win. Let's take a look-see. Modern... Yeah, Infect isn't even on the list anymore. Infect used to be the fastest deck around. But then Fatal Push got printed and they took Probe away. Destroy target artifact. That's fine. We're going to sack it in response, then kill it on our turn. So, fetch lands and breeding pools. I know once upon a time they were running the... I forget what it's called. Power Plant, Tower, Mine. They were running the Fastland, Botanical Sanctum. Just because everything they want to cast is 3 mana, and they lose creatures in combat, and... But oh well. Alright, so there's Tron. 2 mana into Selesnya Signet. Three mana into Sylvan Scrying. Go grab ourselves a backup tower so we can cast Ulamog on the cheap for next turn. And then kill this while they don't have any buff spells active. Sorry, opponent, you're going to have a bad time. Then if they go all in on the Inkmoth, that means that they have 2 mana worth of spells. They can't kill us next turn. Then Ulamog's going to be pretty devastating. If they do try to go all in, we have Nature's Claim on the hand. I really wanted to get out Elishnor in this matchup. That just felt amazing. She's not just good against Empty the Warrens. In fact, she's like the primary reason you go white. You do get some powerful sideboard cards, but without Stony Silence, there's not much incentive to do it. When you're ready, opponent. There's the Ink Moth. He gets to come in. I'll happily take one. When they go to buff it, we'll kill it. Or no buff. Let's see if they want to save it. Because if they do, then Ulamog's going to take away their last lands. If they don't. Yep, there's the Blossoming Defense. Alright. Tower of Urza. And I want to sack the Horizon Canopy, so I need to be a little funky with my mana. Goodbye creature, goodbye land. Yep, and there's a concession. Alright, on the draw, do we change anything? I don't think so. I think we're just looking for like a Walking Ballista or enough removal that we can deal with our opponent's stuff. On the other side of this matchup, you're supposed to go for it as fast as possible, because if you can catch your opponent before they start assembling Tron and getting together their big drops like Worldbreaker and Ulamog, you're just going to take the game. Our version does have a lot of removal, but if you let us dirtle by just chipping in for one and then chipping in for one, we're eventually going to go over the top and have Ugins and Ulamogs and Walking Ballistas to just repeatedly threaten the creatures, and it just goes downhill quite quickly. So you just have to go balls to the wall, and most of the time you'll end up taking it. Especially if you can figure out how to sequence your hexproof spells first, so when they resolve you can buff after. In the meantime, though, a lot of removal for Tron. Thought Knot doesn't quite feel right in this deck. It is quite good, but 4 mana just isn't where we want to be. There's been a couple of times where we popped Sanctum of Ugin and I just wanted another Ulamog, or potentially a Worldbreaker, or just some big threat. I think the old versions of Green-White also ran Karn, but this was kind of just, let's take out the good Karns and put in some other fun cards. Alright, so this is a Tron hand, but I only have a Warping Well. I think we die that way. It's so hard to mulligan with Tron, though, because we have lands, like we have Tron. We have 11 mana in hand and a piece of interaction, and a redraw. But if they just lead on Glistener Elf and then Might of Old Kroza and we have Warping Well. I'm just going to take it on the strength of that. Plus we get to hold up Warping Well while we're popping Expedition Map. Ah, they do have Nobles. Interesting. I'm really curious why they have the check lands then. It just doesn't seem right. But we'll see if they've got the Infect creature. They do. They do. Alright, so what can we do here? We can try to exile, they'll just Vines it, and then we're on the backswing for potentially lethal. Again, you don't want to do this during their turn, otherwise they'll just buff it in response, or if you do it in response to a buff, they'll just buff it again, and then that's how you die. So I think you just need to put them on it here. Then if need be, crack Expedition Map, have 3 mana up next turn. 2 mana. We have 2 Infect creatures with 4 pieces of candy in hand, though. Exalted's going to get them in for at least 2. And then 2 buff spells could be lethal. Let's see if they've got it. Are they really trying to figure out if this is worth saving or not? We're going to be tapped out. Okay, so they did actually know how that was going to work. They didn't even pay life for it. Okay. They must have an interesting hand. I'm probably going to get become immenced. Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, they get in for 6 this turn. 1 for the power, 1 for exalted, 4 from one of their better buff spells. Or they could buff with vines and we'll take 7, but we'll be dead to just about anything. Unblockable and flying. Yeah, I think this one's away from us. Or just get in for 3. So I think best draw for us is draw Spatial Contortion. They must not have very many buff spells. Alright, Chromatic Star is a terrible redraw if you can even call it that. So Horizon Canopy, we're going to Sylvan Scrying. We will go grab our Power Plant, which is the last piece of Tron. Then tell opponent that game's open. And they should have lethal. I can't imagine that they don't. They have at least 3 off of a single attack. Then they just need 4, which is either 2 of their worst buff spells or 1 of their good ones. Really? I'm so confused. Are they like 3 lands? Or all creatures? Alright, there's Tron. Here's our redraw. And that's pretty much it. So, like, I could go get Sanctum, I could go get... Actually, I guess that is technically something we can do here. So we can go get Horizon Canopy, although we made our land drop for the turn. Yeah, so I just punted away 2 mana. Redraw. Yep. Alright, GG's opponent. So, I literally had just ran this through a league earlier today and ended up going 3-2 in it. This deck can definitely do a lot better than that showing. I know I punted versus Merfolk, and we kind of had a bad draw against Dredge. Like, Dredge should have been an easy sweep for us. We have so many cards that just annihilate their board. Exile for good, exile clauses, block for days. But, yeah, this deck can do some fun things. The only reason to go white, though, is you get to play with Elesh Norn for creature matchups if your meta is heavy with it, and the sideboard hate. Rest in peace. You can run Stony Silence in this deck. I highly wouldn't recommend it. Your best removal is Oblivion Stone. Your best cantrip is Chromatic Star. You should probably be running Sphere somewhere in here. I ended up taking them out for, I think, some of the Path to Exiles was the 1-to-1 cut there. Relic main board's fantastic. Relic off of Ancient Stirrings is exactly why you're playing Tron in the first place right now in the current meta. It hits Phoenix, it hits Dredge. Both are very highly represented at the moment. The Thought-Knot Seers are not correct. You could make an argument to just put in 2 Spheres for them. You could also make an argument to put in 2 more Ulamogs because this deck does need a little bit higher threat density. Most of the matches we lost were because of lack of drawing a threat fast enough. Johnny is cute. He's too hard to cast. The Signets are how you're starting to enable casting a Johnny, but those should probably just be stars to get 1 mana off for cycles. So if I were to start this over, it'd probably just be Signets out, Thought-Knots out, Ajani out, add some more Ulamogs, possibly Karns. They're just significantly better in that spot. Walking Ballista didn't do what I wanted it to. So I don't know if it's just matchups here. Like, it should have done a lot of work against Infect, but we just never saw one. And Sturrians is the engine. Like, there's a lot of changes to be made, but it does have some legs. It just didn't show very well for this current run. But Elish Norn, fun card. It literally shuts down part of Storm's plan. It makes it so that Infect can't go off. It makes it so almost all of Dredge's creatures stay in the graveyard. She is just fantastic and powerful. Horizon Canopies are part of the reason that you want to run this as well. Most of your land tutors can go draw or redraw. If we had higher threat density, we probably would have been drawing into them more often. You could always just run stock Tron where you end up running like 15 threats and you usually have at least one in hand. But fun deck, bad version of green. I don't think that surprises anybody. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say, so thanks for watching.